His ex is at Edwin Sifuna.
I thought you were going in a different direction.
Okay. Let's talk about the G2G.
Yes.
What concerns did you have or did you hear from the market on the G2G oil importation?
Yeah, I think it wasn't my concerns. It was the concerns of the oil marketers that it was not going to result in any reprieve to the consumer. And you can see that, in fact, it hasn't helped. The argument then was that because, there was shortage of dollars on the market, that this G2G was going to provide some cushion, not just to our currency, but also to, our daily payouts in terms of our expenditure as a country. That the payments would be delayed somehow, and maybe we would have some reprieve. But the oil marketers doubted that. They thought that it was better to allow the existing system where there was an open tender system, and the private companies would be able to bring in this, cargo for us. But you can see it is not working. Even on today's, this is a Business Daily today, we have another 1.7 billion fuel scandal because I don't think the government knows what it is doing generally. So we are happy that even the question of the subsidies, we said, please cushion Kenyans for a bit. The economy is going to improve at some point because some of the shocks, the global shocks, at some point will be resolved, I hope. And we can wait the storm out. But while we're waiting the storm out, can you please extend some reprieve to the suffering Kenyans? So we are not here to gloat that, oh, yes, we told you, we were right, or that why not for us? No, that's not what we are doing. We're just saying we are happy that sense is prevailing, because sometimes, as I said, it makes you question your own sanity when things that appear very obvious don't make sense to the other party. And sometimes you just think, they say a lot of things about us. But one of the things we have decided, City, is that we will allow you to insult us because we know you did not come to the table of your own volition. We dragged you there kicking and screaming. So we will give you an opportunity to shout, scream, insult us. But when you finish, you will listen to us.
You'll find us here.
You'll find us
We'll
here. We are just here.
But on this issue of subsidy, though,
Yes.
what's new?
What do you mean by what's new?
Is there anything new that you would say that this is as a result of the pressure?
Yeah, it is as a result of the pressure, because you will remember the argument for us was that, yes, the subsidies were very expensive, but they were cushioning Kenyans from exorbitant prices at the pump. And the problem with fuel is that it's very volatile. Immediately the prices of fuel go up. Everything else is affected. I was reading a report here. Kenyans are consuming less fuel, actually. Many Nairobians have abandoned their vehicles because they can no longer afford. And it has an effect on even the revenues that the country then, collects. So our position was, please continue with the subsidies until we can see some light at the end of the tunnel. They said they are no longer going to subsidize consumption. Said, let us give our farmers fertilizer, and in 6 months' time, we will have cheap maize and everything will come down. How many harvests have we gone through? I have grown maize. I have grown maize.
How far are you from harvesting?
That's what I'm saying. I have grown maize. It doesn't take a year. Yeah. From the time that we were told, initially there was a consignment of fertilizer that came from I think Russia. Yeah, and we were told now this one is being applied to our farms, and in a few months' time, like 6 months ago, they were telling us in 3 months' time we'll be harvesting. It's now August. It's a year after the election. We have not harvested that crop. So they told us they were no longer going to subsidize these things. But the fact that they have come to that realization that even this new tax they imposed, the 8% on fuel, has a negative effect on everything. So people are buying less fuel. People are leaving their vehicles behind. I was speaking to my friends at EABL. People are consuming less beer. So you impose a tax thinking now this is where you're going to reap.
It's going to help.
Yeah.
So you think it doesn't?
It doesn't. If they showed me the sales figures, significant drops in sales.
But on this one, though, the Petroleum Development Levy has been applied even after the election.
That's what I'm saying.
Even in this
it is the exact same thing. It doesn't matter what you call it. They say a rose by any name is still a rose.
What I'm saying is they didn't stop. They might have talked
at least in public. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In public, they were saying they were no longer going to subsidize
the
fuel.
PDL was still being applied.
So what has changed?
That's what I'm asking.
That's what I'm asking you.
Where is your pressure?
What has changed? Why have they brought it back?
If the petroleum development levy was still applied on the pump prices,
yes,
in March, not on petrol, but on diesel.
But that's what they were saying.
And all this. And
that's what they were saying. They actually took it.
Still being applied.
They stopped applying it on certain products. Yeah. It was not uniform on all petroleum products. I think there was kerosene where they retained the PDL, but now they've returned it
diesel
to
as well.
Yes,
and then
they've returned it to everything. Yeah. So that is the change. That is what is different now.
So if we're seeing these changes,
yes,
whether they're minimal or they're hitting you in the face,
yes.
If they're happening as a result of the pressure that's being put, whether it's being put in the public
Absolutely.
or on individuals, in the corner, if that is happening and it's bearing result, and maybe in the future you'll see the ostrich actually now has come in the full glare of everybody, why then have talks?
Because the pressure doesn't come only from maandamano. Even this public pressure, people having these conversations in spaces such as this, is important. There's not only one way to apply pressure. Public pressure is applied in various ways. So for us, it's an opportunity to put that issue on the table in a manner in which maybe they can listen and we can listen to each other. Instead of me talking from a platform in Likoni and you answering me from a platform in Nanyuki, let's have that conversation on one table. And we are so focused that we must achieve something for the Mwananchi. And that is why we are saying, because it's not about us. It's not about us. Let us have give this particular process all the due respect that it deserves. Ignore these noises that are coming from people who we know are making that noise because the conversation on the table is difficult. It is very easy to insult people from pulpits and from public barazas, but tell us why the fertilizer subsidy is not working, why the price of unga is still high, why do you think it is fashionable for you to be taxing Kenyans to the bone the way that you're doing? Those are difficult conversations. They would rather not have that conversation. But because we have a message to deliver, we will allow them to throw tantrums from time to time. You will not hear us answer them or run away from the negotiation table. But at the end of a tantrum, we will be there to remind you that these are the issues that Kenyans want addressed.
Is that going to be today is Friday?
Yes.
They have until today to come up with the agenda for this new fresh round of talks.
Yes.
The other one, in which you are a member, just collapsed unceremoniously.
Yes.
This time, do you think that is going to be the primary agenda?
Well, for me, City, one of the
accountability. City is that one.
Oh, sorry.
This one is.
Eric, yes.
Do you think the issue of because this is about accountability. You talked about fertilizer subsidy. Let's track back and see whether that subsidy was actually applied to the needful farmers. You talked about this and the other. Are those going to be the issues? Or are we going to actually discuss the position of a leader of official opposition, entrenching Prime Cabinet Secretary, and these other conversations?
One of the most frustrating things for me as a member of Azimio is that it doesn't matter how many times we say what our agenda is. People still want to define that agenda for us. From the time we had that meeting at Jivanji, our agenda has never changed. We had 4 issues on the table and they remain the 4 issues. Eric, it is surprising that even when they are the ones who are bringing the Kenya Kwanza agenda is the one that talks about offices.
Yes.
For instance, they know for a fact that Musalia's office is unconstitutional. They want to use this process to essentially sanitize an unconstitutional office. We have not spoken about any office in our 4 agenda. We said we want an audit of the IEBC servers for the election. We want a discussion on reduction of the cost of living. We want a reconstitution of IEBC in a bipartisan manner. And finally, we said we would want to stop interference of government in political parties. That's our agenda. It has never changed. We have never added a thing. And when we were in the last bipartisan committee, every team came and drafted their agenda. It was surprising to us that the office of opposition leader, that proposal is from Kenya Kwanza. It is not us. We have not asked for any office. Our 4 issues have never changed. And I see them on podium saying, oh, these people want mukate nusu nini. In fact, last time we agreed with our team that the first agreement we want to draft, we want to take a very big page like this and write no handshake. Then everybody signs and we lodge it with whoever. We can lodge it in parliament, give copies to you in the media. Kwanza hiyo ituondoke, because I don't understand how I can be saying I don't want something and you come and tell me that this is what you want. I don't want it.
That's why I'm asking.
Secondly,
that's why I'm asking the question. Do you think that will be an agenda?
Now, for me, let me tell you, because this is bipartisan.
Yes.
For me, I want to tell the country, and I want to tell you, without fear of any contradiction, Azimio issues have been 4, and they will remain 4. None of those issues involve anybody getting any office or any slice of government. And those are the issues we will bring. Now, because it is bipartisan, I cannot dictate to those guys what they bring. They are the ones talking about offices. They are the ones talking about Musalia's office. They are the ones talking about the office of official opposition. They are talking about entrenching CDF, which is something that was not there in the beginning.
Yeah.
They are talking about, which is the other one? The gender question,
Yeah.
which is something that the country has struggled with for a long time.
Yeah.
And the most cynical thing I've seen in this country is that now people, I don't know where people get the courage. We have gone through a very difficult process to get these guys to the table. We were not sleeping in our houses. Some of us were being hunted like animals. The tear gas I've inhaled is enough for a lifetime. And when we were doing that, wearing sufurias on the head, people who were criticizing us, look at this fool, he's a lawyer, why does he have a sufuria on his head? Now they are saying we also have our issues. Like, who is your mother? Surely. who raised you? Like, where do you get the courage to say now, oh, we also want to discuss the question? See, you also undermine for those issues.
It's bipartisan. They come to the table, right? And somehow, because it's bipartisan, it's a give or take.
Yes.
This issue of leader of official opposition actually ends up being adopted as an agenda.
Yes.
And it's discussed, and somehow they come out and they say we've got some white smoke, and we've agreed that yes, we can find a way of creating an office and call it leader of official opposition. But you had said that, on the other side, your preamble is no handshake.
Yes.
Are you saying that Azimio would say, because we are the minority and leader of opposition would obviously come from a minority, because we are not interested in this, we are going to defer these two until after 2027?
Yeah, you can make a framework agreement. You see, for me, let me tell you what will make me most happy is for us to address the question of a reprieve to Kenyans in terms of the cost of living now. If I get something for the people first, then if you give me something else, there's no problem. I don't have an issue with that. But the product of a bipartisan process is usually not amenable to amendments, So we are saying for us, you judge us by the content or the issues that we have put on the table. Don't judge me by the issues that have been put on the table by the other side. And if we can get them to agree that, yes, we're going to have a reduction in taxes, we're going to backtrack on the 8% fuel tax, we're going to remove the housing levy, we're going to remove all these pain points for you, then really, if they say they want to see an office of opposition, why would I say no? I would not say no.
You'll occupy it happily.
I will occupy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, what is the significance of all these discussions being anchored in law?
The significance is that nothing really takes effect if it does not have the force of law. So, gentlemen agreements in this country don't work. I think you have lived enough to see that
MOUs.
Yes, you cannot agree things across the table like this and then not expect that out of the goodwill of people. Because as I told you, these are reluctant negotiations. They have not come to the table freely of their free will. They have been dragged there.
Okay.
So you have to secure whatever agreements you make in law so that at the expiry of that goodwill, and you can see it's very tenuous, it can expire any time, given some of the conversations that are going on in the country and some of the remarks that are being made by the leadership of Kenya Kwanza. The goodwill is very tenuous, and there's no guarantee that it will last forever.
There's a different conversation that one hears, and the conversation is perhaps given a lot more light with the presence. Two things. One, the comments that have been attributed to the American ambassador to Kenya.
Yes.
And the visit of a gentleman called Senator Coons.
Yes.
A man who comes from a state where the current president had been senator of.
Yes.
So, one cannot miss out or speculate on the significance of this.
Yes.
The gentleman was here for some time.
Yeah.
Is there significance in any of these things? A, with the ongoing talks that we currently have? Is there any significance to the outcome that is anticipated as a result of these things?
I think there is significance because you see, we live in the so-called global village where international relations have a bearing on what happens in our country just as much as it does in other countries. And you cannot largely ignore the voice of the international community in domestic affairs, because many of these countries have interests in the region, in Kenya, that they would like to protect. What we found unfortunate from the remarks of Meg Whitman, the ambassador, is that she seemed to conclude a matter that is actually under discussion. And from the perspective of somebody who had not spent enough time in the country, we felt that she made that judgment without having engaged robustly and in greater detail with the issue itself. So that there are some controversies that you should allow countries to settle by themselves. It is not an easy thing for us to agree that the election was free and fair. We would want, and in fact, this is why we have been insisting as Azimio, that the truth exists somewhere. The truth exists somewhere. And people have told us, oh, but you went through the court process. The court process does not establish truth. It just establishes fact. And facts are not necessarily the truth. You know, I'm telling you, you have been in media for a long time. We know for a fact as Kenyans, you see, this thing called election results and election servers are our property. We want to look at them. And you see, like for me, there's no controversy, even if there were controversy as to whether I won the Senate seat. And my competitor said we want to recount the ballots. I am very comfortable doing it, because I'm confident in my victory. The truth is in somewhere, because when you take matters to the court of law, and the challenges around our presidential petition, the timelines, the quality of, the analysis of the evidence that is presented, there are things that can be missed. But what cannot be missed are the actual results in the server. All we are saying is establish this, open this thing, and we see, yes, there was no interference, because an allegation has been made by people who are experts on these matters, better than me, that if you were to open that server, you would find evidence of interference. Now, if you open and you don't find, I'll be the first one to say, Mr. President Ruto, congratulations. And we move on. But how can we deny ourselves the truth? How? So for the ambassador to make that statement that was, in our view, determining a matter that is still in controversy, we thought it was unfortunate. And we know that even as from the diplomatic perspective, there are limits to which you can go in expressing views about matters concerning the country to which that is hosting you. What if
she was basing her statement on what you call the fact?
That's
not necessarily wanting to deal with the truth.
That's what we are saying.
According to what we have seen, the fact is this was a credible election, and she qualified it by saying it was even declared as so by the Supreme Court.
Exactly, because now that settles the election. That is where the problem is.
As far as
that is where the problem is, my brother, because we have seen court pronouncements that were wrong. And in our own country, there's a famous case of, I think they're called the Central Park 5. Some young men who are alleged to have raped some woman in Central Park in New York. And those guys served, I think, over 20 years in jail. And later, evidence emerges that, in fact, the court was wrong. So the fact that you have gone through the legal process, the constitutional process of ascertaining a winner, does not mean that that is the truth. The court can pronounce itself given what it is, what is available to it. And one of the things that people forget is that this information came to us after the fact, And even in court practice, sometimes you can reopen a case where, for instance, if you went through a murder trial and police never found, say, a murder weapon, and they let that guy go, and finally they find the knife, it has the prints of the murderer, and so on and so forth. You can reopen and say, yes, now in light of this new evidence.
But that is after it has been redetermined.
That's what I'm saying. After.
In the prevailing period,
yes,
this person remains a murderer because they've been adjudged so by a competent court.
No, they remain innocent because they have not been found guilty by a court.
I'm talking about when somebody has been
convicted
by a court.
Yes.
And declared a murderer and sentenced. All right?
Yes.
They remain a murderer.
Yeah, they do.
Until
they do. I didn't say they don't. But what we're saying is you cannot then make a final determination just on the basis of a court pronouncement. And that is where she gets it wrong. Because there are certain nuances in countries, in societies, my friend. Wakenya wanajuanga nini inaendelea. Wakenya wanajuanga nini endelea. There are things that we can't even explain to these foreigners. Yeah? So I don't know which is a classic example I can give you. But in Kenya, tunajuanga nini inaendelea.
That's why you say this is Kenya.
This is Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's been sentiment from several quarters that Kenya then remains in a state of limbo.
Yeah.
Because, okay, where are we going? What are we doing? In terms of moving on, in terms of development with the new administration in place, things can really move. Is that a satisfactory place to be in? It doesn't matter what side you're on.
No, I have always held the view that, yes, noise works, but noise will not stop paint from drying. If you are a development-oriented government, I have always given the example. If you fill a grader with diesel and you're going to do a road, it's not going to refuse to move because Sifuna is somewhere on radio making noise. You proceed with your programs. Proceed with your programs by all means. You are the ones who have the instruments of power. But the fact that there is a discussion somewhere about some of the things that you're doing and people have alternative views does not mean that you cannot proceed with the agenda. They are proceeding with the agenda. We made all the noise we could with the finance bill. We didn't succeed. We succeeded in some areas where there were some adjustments to the bill, but we didn't succeed largely in making sure that the punitive taxation was not passed. It doesn't stop anything, you know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It works to varying degrees, but we will do our job. We must, he himself, Ruto himself has said he expects a very robust, opposition. And that is what we are doing. There's nothing more to it. But it's unfortunate that in this country, some of our God-given rights, the rights in our constitution can actually get you killed. Nobody needs to die in these demonstrations, by the way. No single property needs to be destroyed. They need to understand that this is something that can actually be done in a peaceful manner. And we have demonstrated in the past that it can actually be done in a peaceful manner. Nobody needed to die. And that is what I was saying, that it was a very expensive process. Because we've seen the families of the people who are killed. Some of them were not even in the maandamano. There can never be a justification for you to send police to drag people from their houses, bludgeon them to death. I mean, what justification is that? Yeah? In fact, if those young men had committed any crimes, take them through that legal process that we talk about. But there can never be justification for you to do that just because people are expressing themselves. And I have advised them that if you have a problem with a provision of the law or the constitution, you have the numbers in the house. Just amend it, scrap Article 37, so that we don't have these pyrrhic rights that are just on paper, but we can't exercise them. You know, it was a very difficult period for us, Latif, if you remember. People openly talking about shooting us, killing us, assassinations. It's not a pretty thing to be in. And I remember being caught in the worst demonstration when we were blocked in Embakasi here, in Kware. I saw death with my own eyes. I mean, because people are just firing into your vehicles, projectiles. You don't know if they are bullets. And people joke around and say, oh, it's just tear gas. If a tear gas canister is fired to you, at that range at which we saw that policeman breaking a car window and shooting, what do you think is going to happen to you? You know?
Well, we have the case of one member of parliament, the deputy minority leader of the National Assembly, who got injured because from that kind of an incident. That scuffle, and it was nothing.
It was nothing compared to what we saw here. I'm telling you. So that is the problem we have. We pretend to be a democracy, but then we don't allow for that democratic expression to take place.
Is that going to be part of the agenda?
Which one?
Talks?
No, I have said it.
Demanding accountability for what has happened, the price that has been paid so far.
Absolutely, I mean, you know, so it is not right.
And demanding accountability for it. If it's a police officer who acted outside of orders given to him by seniors, face the law. If it's a senior who gave those orders, whoever gave an order that ended,
you and me know that in a democratic state, that is exactly what would happen. But those seniors you're talking about, senior people in government, CS Kindiki was.
I'm asking whether it's going to be part of the discussion, because even after the handshake of 2018, that never became a discussion.
That's what I'm saying. I wish
is still a pending justice issue.
I wish my brother, 5 years of handshake. I wish my brother that there would be accountability.
Stay on.
I wish so.
Stay on, Senator, for the next hour. We're going to open up the phone line so people can contribute. Let's engage.